Welcome one and all to the Lockdown Live podcast. Today's podcast will be posted on our YouTube channel. While you're there, I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. All podcasts and articles can also be found on our website, www.thelockdown.life. In 1992, the English Premier League was formed. Have you ever wondered what life was like for young players with Premier League clubs during that time? Well, today we have a guest that will reveal everything, and he'll tell you what it was like to be a young footballer with the mighty Liverpool FC in the early and mid-1990s. Welcome to the podcast, Paul O'Donnell.
Jamie, how are you?
Not too bad now. How's lockdown treating you, Paul?
Oh, look, it's nice and easy. It's better than going to work, I suppose.
It is, yeah. I'm glad some people. I think we're supposed to. I think everyone's supposed to say that it is terrible and staying at home all the time. Where I think everyone we'd like to get back out there, but I think some of us there's definitely enjoyable sides to it.
Yeah, look, I have the little man there. The little lad is only 18 months, so like it's been great spending time with him. That I would have been out working a lot. You can't really have enough time around the little lads when they're like that. So in that sense, it's great. But
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, we do need to it'd be nice to get back out, a little bit of normality,
To be, I think, I think that's definitely a good point. I think good opportunity for people to.
It's the most important thing is people's lives and whatever, and that it's health, and we just have to listen to what we're being told to do. And at the minute, from Limerick's point of view, anyway, it seems to be going very, very well. Look, we just have to keep doing what we've been told.
That's it. Yeah, I agree. It's as I said, it seems to be going well, and the measures seem to be going all right. So, as I said, fingers crossed, we'll do our bit, and just hopefully everything works out.
Yeah.
So Paul, I just want to talk first. Just kind of your early life and early football career. So, where are you from, and what was your early life like?
Well, at the minute, I'm living in Rebogue at the moment, but I would have grown up predominantly in Castletroy. I was living in O'Malley Park till I was 10. So, the first time I kicked the ball was with O'Malley Park Rangers, they were called actually.
Okay.
I was only 6. I think it was 5 or 6 playing under 10s or something. Then Pike, I signed for Pike for a couple of years because they were close by. The family would have been steeped in Pike. The grandfather would have been, a big Pike man, Tommy Burke. So then I played a little bit there. We weren't that good now, but it was great memories, putting on the jersey and being too small for it. But I was playing 3 and 4 years out of my grade, but that's what it was like back then. It didn't do us any harm. I know it's fairly strict now, but that's the way it was. So I can remember we used to walk to matches. We'd all meet in Garryon and did have 1 or 2 managers walking, 14 or 15 under 10s up to Kennedy Park to play them and up to Glasgow Park to play them.
Yeah.
It was different times. So sometimes we got public. I can remember getting public transport once, across the town, all on the bus to go and play Ardew Highfield, I think, at one stage. But I went to Granville then. I moved to Castletroy when I was 10. So I signed with Granville Rangers, and that's kind of when it kind of took off for me a little bit. I think I had a point to prove. I didn't know anyone. I was the new kid.
Yeah.
So
what age are you at this point?
I was 10.
10.
But
Granville, yeah.
It was just they were fairly good side, and we had some good players, and it was great. It was a really family-run club, brilliant club, and still are today at schoolboy level. Really, really had great memories. I ended up making great friends, and it was back in the day, when no one really ran around the town trying to sign for the best team. You kind of played for where you were living. We had some great battles at the Borough, and the Borough, they were all the Borough lads. The Carragher lads were from Carragher. It was very parochial, if you know what I mean. A little bit more like the GA. It's kind of changed. Everything has changed today, as we know.
Yeah, I think from every from every level of the game, from the bottom right to the top, it's definitely different times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best clubs now, and fair play to them. I mean, the best clubs are with the best facilities, the best structure. Look, if my lad was lucky enough to be very, very, very good, you're as a parent, you're going to you might have to travel a little bit. But as a parent, everybody wants their son to play with the best team. If that's where he wants to go. Now, if he wants to play with his mates, well, he plays with his mates then, and so be it. But I think as long as they're happy, that's the most important thing, and they're enjoying their football.
Absolutely, yeah. And I agree, yeah. As I said, if it's, you want to give them the best opportunity, you want to give them the best enjoyment, so whatever club offers that is probably the best fit.
It is, yeah. As you said, you get some kids are funny, they just want to play with their mates, and if that's what they want to do, then I think early on in football is they need to just play. Keep playing the game and enjoying it, and they're smiling their faces, they're looking forward to going to play. That's the most important thing. And if they can go and do it with a club with a brilliant structure and good facilities, well, it's a bonus.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's I think that's the every player, I think you have to love the game. So when you're kind of coming up the ranks now, kind of going from kind of 10 onwards, coming into your kind of teenage career, you love the game, I assume. Were you playing the whole time? Were you, was it the street football, all that kind of stuff, or what was were you playing different sports?
I was playing. It was actually one regret I have is my dad wouldn't let me play rugby because I was playing 3 grades of soccer. So I was playing like 10s and 12s and a little bit of 13s. Then I went from 12s, 13s, 14s, and in GA I was kind of doing the same thing. So it was just like the whole week. It was just sport. Yeah. And then I'm running out the door in the morning. We'd play a ball on the greens. If I couldn't get a game on my own green in Castletroy View, I'd go across to Norwood Green. There was a game there. There was a game on Granville Green. There was a game on Woodlawn Green. So you just kept playing. And, you'd often go from a game on the green straight up to Granville's pitch, put on the gear, play the match, run back down the road and play a game of World Cup, in Clough GA club or something. It was just different times. It was brilliant times. It was great times growing up then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think the just constantly playing, getting in all those hours, it's from every point of view, it's just great to see, and it's definitely a positive thing for any young footballers.
I think as well, like, it's just the technical ability. I know there's some great coaches out there at the moment, and they're doing great work with kids, but I just think that the kids today are lacking what we had in the game time that we spent with a football at our feet. We really spent so much time. The players were, really, really technically good, and you'd have players that would run by players. That was the kind of one I ended up being, as at a young age. I like dribbling. Now players are kind of told, open out, ball out in front of you, pass the ball here, pass the ball there. And look, I think everything can be structured. It's great to teach them that, but I think in the attacking third, it's very hard to teach someone with ability to do something. The really good players, I think, come alive in that third. And I think, look, it's just something that's kind of drifted from the game a little bit. It's a little bit more organised, but I don't think we see the individual brilliance that we would have seen back when I was growing up.
Yeah, I think it's a friend of mine went a few months ago to a Premier League game, and he was on Willian's side for Chelsea, and he came back and was absolutely disgusted. He thought, he's supposed to be a Premier League winger. He didn't take one player on, he getting the ball, pass it backwards, didn't see any inventiveness or any, just trying something. And I think definitely the coaching structures in the game and the way the game has changed, it makes sense that you're going to lose if you have kids in academies from the age of 6 or 7 learning how to play out from the back, learning how to do this, that and the other. You're probably going to lose a little bit versus when they were on the greens, trying to play World Cup, being a perfect example.
Yeah, to be fair to Willian, in his defence, probably the way the game has changed. Like, when I was a young lad and when I was in England, like it was 4-4-2. The winger was against the fullback, and it was like a battle between me and the fullback, and it would have been that 1v1 battle to get the crosses in. The game has changed now. It's the fullback now that's doing it. So to be fair to Willian, he has a bit about him, and he has a trick, and he's not afraid to have a go. But the way Chelsea are playing now is he's probably thought, look, you entertain the fullback dummy to come inside and let our fullback is overlapping, and it's he's going to cross the ball, and that's where the game has changed a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the tactical evolution is Joe, it's no more evident in Liverpool, and we can get onto that later on in the conversation. But yeah, I think with Liverpool, you see now they've two wide players. They're playing with three centre forwards now, and their fullbacks are playing as 10 years ago or 15 years ago would have been wingers. So
Yeah,
it's
they're so
the game's
high. Like
definitely come on.
it's crazy when you look at how high and wide the fullbacks are. You know, the two of them. It's the braveness of it as such. You know, the two centre backs are on the ball, and the two fullbacks are standing on both halfway lines. You know, there's such big gaps there, and it's just like back when we played, that would not have happened. You know, it was we were very cautious, and you know, but it's just how the game has changed. And I think if you look at Zaha with Crystal Palace, how he hasn't ended up with one of the big clubs yet would probably show you, I think, the way the managers think that it's a system.
Yeah.
Can you trust him to play that system, even though he's got probably the best feet in the Premier League, you know, and the best individual brilliance. He's that old kind of style player. He's liable to do anything when he gets it. But yet none of the big clubs have took a punt on him yet. And I find that, you know, that's probably evidence as to why, you know, as your mate said, he went to watch Willian. That's probably why. You know, Zaha probably couldn't do what Willian is doing then. You know,
That's
he'd be he's off the cuff, like.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that, yeah. So you on your 16th birthday, you signed for Liverpool. If we just kind of rewind a small bit kind of before that, your build up to signing for Liverpool, what was your when was the first kind of inkling you got that, you know, football could be an option for you, it could be, Joe, a career for you, could Joe, you'd opportunities to actually make it in the game? When did you start kind of feeling that way as a kid and a teenager?
I think I grew up like every other kid. You know, I was very, very lucky, very, very privileged. I mean, I grew up in a big Man United family, believe it or not.
Okay.
My grandfather, God be good to him, was a massive United fan, and the whole family were steeped in it really. I didn't have much choice really but to support them. So I dreamed of playing for Man United, and you know, my dad took me to watch Pat Nolan's testimonial, which was Man United in Limerick in the Markets Field. I can remember as a little nipper. And seeing the players, you know, it was just, you know, it was a dream. But, you know, did I believe I was going to be that good? Probably, you know, the innocence of a child, you always believe that, you know, at 11 and 12 and 13. But I think it was, you know, we got to play Kennedy Cup, which is, you know, is a great competition. You know, it's great. It's when you first kind of start to, you know, believe, you know, if you do really well in a Kennedy Cup against players you don't know, you know, you start to believe, you know, could I be one of the better players in the country and what have you. But, I think, look, in around Kennedy Cup time, it got competitive in that. And I went up to play in Dublin with Granville, done really well in one of them games. And you start to think to yourself, you know, am I good? You know, and people start saying to you, you're very good. And eventually you get a bit of confidence. But we had international trials, really. And I can remember going up in the first day of the trial, shitting my pants, really, to be honest. Absolutely. Listening to the dubs talking about, I had 4 trials, I had 3 trials, I was over at this club and they wouldn't let me go to this club, and I was sitting in the dressing room. It was myself, Willie Boland, Garrett Ryan, Colin Power, and I can remember going like, oh my God, like, you know, Jesus, they must be brilliant. But it was only on the last morning the coaches from Granville decided to come up to take us home. And I wasn't even a sub on the second string team. I was a sub on the second string team, actually. And I can remember thinking to myself, jeez, like, I mean, they're after coming the whole way up now. I'm only a sub. So I got put on with half an hour to go, and I was so embarrassed for the 2 lads coming up. It was John O'Neill, I think, and I can't remember. It was John O'Neill and Ken Morgan, or it was John O'Neill and Boza Coffey. I was so embarrassed for them coming up. So I just said, you know what? Fuck this. And I said, right, here we go. We just got the ball and decided it's all about me now. And I ended up scoring 3 goals in half an hour. The manager was going to go, Jesus, where did this fella come out of? Where's he been hiding for the last 2 days? And only for that, you know, a little break, you think in your head that, you know, the things that happen. So done so well. And I think even after that half an hour, I was nearly told actually I was in the squad. So well. So, you know, and that's when it kind of hit home a little bit then. It's belief, you know, you think of where you were mentally in it as a kid. And that's why I think it's, you know, you've got to be very careful with young kids. Bigging them up can be a very bad thing, but also, keeping them down. So I was very, very kind of shy, didn't really believe myself. But it took, if the two lads hadn't come up, I probably would have put my head down and said, right, I'm not good enough, and that was it.
Yeah.
But they came up for a look. I was like, I felt so bad for him after coming the whole way up from Limerick to Dublin that I wasn't even in a sub. And, I was only a sub on the second string.
Yeah.
And that's what, next thing it just all came to light then. The confidence came, and I didn't give a shit after that then. As far as I was concerned, I deserved to be there, and I was one of the better players in the country at the time. Like,
yeah, it's incredible that, do you ever think back to Joe? Had you started, say, that Joe, with the second string team that day, or if you were a sub somewhere else?
Yeah,
or...
I might have shit myself again. Like, I mean, and then Willie Boland was the total opposite of me. Then Willie was just a confident lad, had confidence in his ability, and he took it by the scruff of the neck. I mean, he was just head and shoulders when he went up there. Straight away, he was like, "I'm better than all ye," and he was outstanding. Like, he was straight away. He was a shoo-in. Garrett Ryan, very, very done really well. Colin Power done well. He was just unlucky at the time. But Garrett Ryan had a bit more confidence about himself as well. They were probably going to get in anyway. But as for me, it was just that half an hour of kind of like letting myself go and saying, right, to hell with it. The next thing, I didn't look back after that. Like,
yeah, it's incredible. As I said, if you can pinpoint some of these moments where it just, there's a ripple effect and there's a knock-on effect. And as I said, if things work out slightly differently that day, what happens then. But just the spark you needed, or for whatever reason to
it was good, because it was when I did actually get a chance then to play for Ireland. I was in a good place. I felt I deserved to be there. And if I had to sneak my way in, I might have got really, really nervous when I played for Ireland the first time, but I wasn't. I'd kind of got I had that confidence in me, and I'd done really, really well. And I was, again, you get a little bit of breaks and that. Our first game was against Switzerland, over in Switzerland. We thought the game was going to be called off. It was a muddy pitch, and they wouldn't let us play in at the club side. So they had this training pitch. It was actually made of wood chips and like peat or something. It was like an old all-weathery effort. So we ended up playing my first international match against Switzerland on one of them pitches, which was strange. But look, you were able to pass the ball on it, like you. But
how did it suit you? How did it suit you as a dribbler and a winger?
Not great now, but it was just, we were all pumped up. It was our first game for Ireland. The national anthem was played, like you're 15 years of age, and we were just like wired. So I just ran. I don't think I stopped running for 90 minutes. Just ran and ran and ran. Got cramp for the first time in my life. Thought I was after breaking my leg or something, but it was cramp. Screaming on the ground. Never experienced cramp before, like. But it was great. Like, we drew the game and we were happy. And I remember John O'Neill, actually from Granville, actually travelled. This is back in 1990. He travelled from Limerick to Switzerland. Got about 2 or 3 different flights and trains to come and watch that game. Which was, and he turns up at the Ting Hotel. The day of the game. It was, again, that was not a little lift for me. I felt that I had to do well. So I just ran my heart out, and that's what we done, really. It was that era of Jackie Charlton as well. So it was like we just ran and ran and ran and challenged and got stuck in, and it wasn't too much, like, there was no real play out from the back or little 6 dropping in the pocket or a 10 dropping in the pocket. It was like hit the corners, chase the ball and work. That was what it was built on, really. Like,
and I think it's the key thing with all these game plans is how well you can implement them, and I think if you're implementing that game plan can definitely derive plenty of results if it's done the right way.
Yeah, look, we done pretty well, and for the couple of years we were there, like, we're relatively minnows, like, until Brian Clough came along, when what he done was magnificent. He really changed the whole mentality of Irish football, and schoolboy football especially. Playing out from the back, taking on the Italians and the French and the really good teams, playing football. Whereas we were great, But when we came up against a really good side, over time we were kind of found wanting in the first year or two. You know, they kind of
Yeah.
picked us off a little bit. But look, it was a game plan. You know, the two boys up front had to work really, really hard. You had to try and get hold of it. You know, the wingers had to try and get past the fullback and get crosses in. Two centre-backs had to win their headers. Like, there was still, you know, the basics of football, and that's what it was. Not too much magic coaching going on, but basically being part of the unit, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the doing the fundamentals is absolutely paramount with these things. So at this point you're you know, you've kind of broken into the underage setup with Ireland. Before signing for Liverpool, was there other clubs? Had you options to go elsewhere? What was the build up to actually signing that kind of first deal with Liverpool?
Well, it was kind of there was two games that kind of changed everything for me. There was I was like tipping away. You were getting a couple of inklings of clubs sniffing, but again, as I said, being in the right place at the right time. I mean, we played Wales in Wales, and we beat them 4-1, and I scored 3 and made 1.
Okay.
And that was in front of probably nearly most of the scouts in England.
Yeah.
Okay. And that it kind of went bananas after that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was John O'Neill, to be fair to him, stepped up. We couldn't take the more calls to the house. There was no mobile phones back then. It was just you had your landline. So the clubs were just ringing, and there was no law. There was nothing stopping them.
Yeah.
There was, do you know what I mean? It was just continuous, like, come on trial here and there. And
so I suppose, just for I suppose a bit of context in this kind of era. So there's no, as you said, there's definitely no YouTube, or there's no, you know, sending on, you know, clips of different young players, or, you know, any of that. So you're playing in Wales and scoring 3 goals in front of, as you said, the majority of the scouts in England, and you know, agents, that kind of stuff. I assume wasn't really, as you said, John O'Neill kind of stepped up.
It was word of mouth and stuff like that, you know. So straight away it was kind of, look, I was very, very lucky. I still have the ball. I was privileged to score a hat trick for my country, like, you know, and I have the ball. And I suppose at that level, it didn't really happen too often at the time, you know, when the international sides met. Generally they're tight matches, but we managed to do well on the day. So it was a bit of a tension after that. Then the under-16s were in the European Championships couple of weeks afterwards, and we were only under 15. Now, Willie Boland had went straight into the 16s. He had been so good. He actually was in the he was in the 15 squad and the 16 squad in the same year.
Okay.
Before I had managed to score the hat trick, I was just with the 15s, but I got drafted up then to play for the 16s, the European Championships down in Cork, against Denmark. And I remember coming off the bench and scoring that day. We got beat the same day. Denmark were a good team. But I scored off the bench. I was only under 15. And then on the Wednesday night, we played Norway in Tolka Park. And that was, again, it was the last time for the scouts to see the best under 16s in Ireland.
Yeah.
So I played up front. I played up front with Alan Moore, actually. Alan Moore, that went on to play for Middlesbrough in the Republic of Ireland. Tony Sheridan played the same night. Willie Boland played. Garrett Ryan played. Limerick as well. So, you know, it was great. I was playing with like 2 of my best mates at the time. You know, it was brilliant.
Great,
you know, playing for Ireland with your mates. And it was probably the best game I've ever had in a green shirt. I think it was probably even a better performance than the hat trick game. I didn't score, but done really, really well. And again, the scouts were there. So it was just bananas after that, because I was only under 15.
Yeah.
And it was a 16 match. So they couldn't believe that this lad was only, you know, a year younger than everyone. So it kind of went a bit haywire. There was a lot of clubs involved. United came in, City, Arsenal. There was John O'Neill was taking all the calls, and he was, there was clubs ringing up saying they'd kit Granville out they kit the whole club if I just went over on trial and stuff and that, and you know. But I had something in my head. I didn't want to go to London. I don't know what it was back then, but I was afraid of going to London. My parents were afraid of London, so we kind of ruled out the London clubs as such.
Yeah.
But so I ended up going to United for a week. They wanted to sign us. But Liverpool came in, and my dad said that they were, because they were the best team at the time. My dad just said, "Would you not just go?" And I was like, "No, no, I hate them." And next thing he said, "Just go. I'd like to see how you get on over there." So I went there for a week, and I actually loved it over there. They were just so friendly. They were brilliant. But it was probably Forest were the team that I was most likely to sign for. We went up and met them in Dublin. They were playing a friendly, and they'd brought up my parents and myself. I went and met them, and they were kind of put an offer on the table, wanted us to come over and see the place first. So they kind of fitted the bill, really, because you might have had a better chance there than Liverpool in hindsight. They were giving young players a chance.
So Nottingham Forest, they're in the Premier League at this stage. Are they kind of are they a mid-table team at this point? Or are they?
Yeah, they're in the Premier League. And so they brought us over for the weekend. Funny story, actually. So they brought us over, myself, my mum, my dad. John O'Neill was brought as well, because he's a big part of it when I was looking after me and that. And he would have been the port of call as well. But I remember getting there, and I didn't get a chance to see the digs that I would have been staying in. We arrived on the Friday evening, so on the Saturday, the first team were playing Sheffield Wednesday. So I was supposed to travel with the first team down to the match, see the game, go in the dressing room before the game, go back out, go up to my parents, and after the match, come back down to the dressing room and go home in the team bus.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is great, So I got dropped to the ground that morning. Stuart Pearce comes off the bus. They hand me a Forest tracksuit. So I put on the Forest tracksuit outside the bus. So he walks me onto the bus. And the top of the bus was old school way, like the directors and the managers were in the front, all the players were on the back, and there's curtains pulled. So Stuart Pearce brings me onto the bus. I'm shitting myself, I'm only 50, I'm looking down here, I'm 15 years of age.
Yeah.
And next time I'm in the bus with the Forest first team, and I can remember being brought back, and Stuart Pearce just said, "Look, this is Paul from Limerick in Ireland.
Yeah.
He's travelling with us for the day." So it was Roy Keane. Then Brian Laws was sitting beside him, and he kicks Brian Laws out of the seat, and he says, "Come on, sit in here, come in."
Jesus,
Sit down beside me. And to be fair to him, I'll never forget it. He made so much of me that day. Chatted to me the whole way from Nottingham to Sheffield, and I had a great chat with him. It was brilliant. I was totally in awe of him. He was my favorite player at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine guys, Joe, guys in their 20s, guys in their 30s, guys in their 40s, meeting some of their kind of footballing heroes. So for 15-year-old kids coming over from Limerick to be actually sat on the team bus speaking with these guys must have been incredible.
Oh, it was just amazing. He had just broken the scene, so he was a couple of years ahead of me, and you're kind of dreaming in yourself. You're thinking, just can I be like him? And it was great. He had a great chat with me, and I think I didn't do my junior cert or inter cert as such. He'd failed. I'd asked him, did he fail his? He said, yeah. And I was like, I felt great. The two of us were going to be players anyway. And at least I thought it was anyway. But it was great. So then got to the ground. During their team talk, I went back out up to watch the match with my mum and dad. They got beat the same day, and I was brought down to the dressing room. So after the match, I walks in. I'll never forget as long as I live. The Forest team are just sitting around. Brian Clough is sitting down on the ground. He's got his tracksuit pants around his ankles, but he's got a pair of shorts on. So he sits on the deck. No one's speaking. So I'm like, what am I even doing here? So at the time, they would have brought a young lad with him to do all their, donkey work, like the boots and the kit and whatever. He was only my own age, a little bit older than myself. He's an apprentice. So he says, Clough says, it was roasting hot day now. So Clough says, "Hey, pour some water over my head." So I was looking, this is mental. So I went out to the shower room, started filling the cup, handed it to him. And I said, "Look, you do this. I'm not going back in there." So the young lad went out, and I'd fill in the cups, and he was going in, pouring the water over Clough's head. So after the third cup, the young fella comes in and says to me, "He wants you to do it." I went, "Oh, Jesus Christ." What? So I walks out with the cup, and no one's even looking. Like they're not. It's like as if it was the norm or something. The players are sitting there. No one is speaking. I'm standing over Brian Clough with a cup in my hand, and I'm kind of half pouring the water, like shaking. He go on, son. So I just slap it over his head.
Yeah.
Good. And I want 2 more from you and 2 more from you. So we had just basically poured water all over him. He's sitting there in a pool of water and sweat. No one's speaking. So at that point, the assistant manager has kind of seen me with my eyes open going, what is going on here? So he's ushered me out of the dressing room, and he's put me back on the bus early, like, but it's just insane, surreal, like when you look back at it, like.
It's we said, we said at the start of the podcast we'd be telling people what it's really like inside some of these dressing rooms, and as you said, picturing the scene of this 15-year-old from Ireland and this other kind of young fella pouring water over one of the greatest managers in English history, after a league game is
just got beat, like, we thought, like, they'd be all ranting and raving and arguing with each other, like there's no one speaking. It's just we're walking in and out pouring water over their gaffer's head, and they're all afraid to move. No one would even attempt to take off a sock or a pair of shorts at this stage, like they're sitting there. It was just nuts, like.
I think when people, I think we forget that human beings, we're not that different, and people at all levels of the game are, they have their own little rituals, their own things, and they act in different ways.
Like we've heard some stories about him, but I think it was just the fear. Or they had respect for him, obviously, but I think it was the fear as well. The fear he's liable to do anything. Because we were heading back on the bus. And like, the way the motorway, the traffic is really, bumper to bumper. So there was a Sheffield fan, and he's bumper to bumper coming one way, and we're traveling the other way, bumper to bumper. And your man is out the window, and he's giving it the 2 fingers and okay and all this. But he's looking at our bus. So what's he do? He goes straight up the back of the car in front of him.
Oh, Jesus.
The bus erupts. So it's the first time there's been any noise since, I'm going back in the bus. They've got beat. Sitting with Roy Keane again, and he's been overly nice. They've got beat, and he's chatting. And next thing, this fella does this. So the bus start laughing. And the assistant manager at the time was Lee McCain, I think it was, something, comes running back. Here, keep your fucking voice down, he said, the gaffer's up there. If he hears you laughing, he'll throw you off the fucking bus. But he would have done, like, he'll make you walk home. And he would have done it. So everyone was just gone quiet again, and it was insane, like, to be fair.
It's I think that's the you definitely, from all the stories we hear from these different kind of legendary managers, having that bit of an X factor definitely seems to be common between them all. Just that little bit of you're not quite sure what they're going to do, just keeps everyone on their toes, and I think keeps everyone sharp to a certain extent. So you were
I think you need to have that. I think even if you go to, like, even junior level at the minute, like, I think the players need to have that little, they have to have that little bit of fear that you're liable to do anything. You're liable to leave someone out. You're liable to, tell someone to piss off. Like, it does help. It does help.
I even think back. I think back, Joe. Even Joe, some of my teachers in school, I found the best teachers that kind of get the best out of you are sometimes the ones that are a bit mad. You could manage, managing certain bosses or teachers or football coaches or whatever. If you kind of know what they're about, it might take you a while, but you can kind of suss them out and know what they're going to do. But it's the guys that you're not sure what they're going to do are the ones that keep you, keep you honest.
Toes,
So was Nottingham Forest, was that, did you consider signing for them? How close were you to actually going there?
I was actually that night I was going to sign, and they had said, to be fair to them, I hadn't seen their academy set up, I hadn't seen the digs and where I was going to stay. It was like a hostel job where they were all in together. All the players stayed together. So I was kind of going, I was just, I said, I'm going to sign anyway. But they said, look, you don't want to do that to you. We'll bring you back again. So I said, okay, fair enough. But in the meantime, Liverpool had heard that I hadn't signed for Man United, funny enough, and made a phone call the week before I was supposed to go to Forest. The weekend I was going to Forest, Liverpool were playing a League Cup game on a Wednesday night at Anfield, and it rang and said, could myself, my parents, and we'll say, John, come over, just meet, have a chat. Met Graham Souness and Steve Hoyway, he was the youth development officer.
Yeah.
Would you meet us, have a chat, put a deal on the table, see what you think, because we thought you were gone. So we said, look, so what have we got to lose? We'll fly over to Liverpool, watch the game, see what they have to say, and then fly to Forest the weekend and weigh up our options. But I was thinking Forest, like.
Yeah.
But it was, again, back in the day, there was no mobile phones as such. And the Forest scout, Noel McCabe, the fellow who claimed to have found Roy Keane, and he was a bit eccentric, to say the least. So while we were in Liverpool, my mum was working in Analog. He couldn't get through on the house phone, so he rang Analog. But a lady picked up the phone and said that Paul has gone to Liverpool with his mum and dad, and your man nearly lost the plot. He was ringing around a few people in Limerick saying, did you hear this, did you hear that? No one really knew at the time. It wasn't out there, like. So he cancelled the trip.
Okay, jeez, okay.
So he just cancelled the flights, cancelled it. So we arrived back from Liverpool, and we had, the Forest lads were onto us, and we just said, look, we went for a look. That was it.
Yeah. So they'd assumed that you were
gone. The flights were gone. They tried to rebook the flights. The flights were gone. We didn't get over. Left a bit of a sour taste in our mouths. And then I just kind of went, look, maybe this is meant to happen. So I ended up, just came down. Then I just said, look, I loved, I did love the week I had in Liverpool. And it just signed the farm. Really, just did it.
Yeah. At that point, how did contracts work then? So you're 15. So it was your 16th birthday, I believe, that you actually signed. What were the Joe, were you allowed to sign? Was it a professional contract? Was it a youth contract? Apprentice?
I think there was a YTS contract back then. So it was like on my 50th, I couldn't actually legally travel to England till I was 16.
Okay.
So I had to wait my 16th birthday. Then I signed a YTS contract. It was only £30 a week at the time. It was. They gave me expenses as well, but I was staying right across from Anfield. So it used to give me like about 100 odd quid a month expenses. That it was just an extra couple of quid. And I couldn't sign professional until I was 17. So I had a year on that sort of money. And on my 17th birthday, then I signed a 3-year professional contract. So I had 4 years there altogether. Okay. But I had to wait. Like if Forest were actually going to give me more money, believe it or not, as a young lad.
Contract for the youth contract. Okay. Yeah,
they had a different scheme. They had like an apprenticeship scheme at the time. The YTS was only after kind of starting. That was a government scheme. There was no way around it. Forest had a different setup, but it was at the time you were looking at figures. In hindsight, it didn't matter a shite. I probably should have signed for Forest. Probably would have got a better chance. But you're just looking at the money put on the table, and the money was very, very, really, really, really good at that time. Very, very good for a young lad. Going over from Ireland, it was very, very good. So we just kind of said, look, Liverpool must really want us. Then United had come in with another offer, saying they'd match Liverpool's, but I just didn't really, when I went over there, I just didn't really feel it, funny enough.
Yeah, interesting. Even though you've been a fan.
Yeah, I'd been a big fan, and I just didn't feel it for some reason. I can remember actually we had a training match, and I went to cross a ball for Brian Robson, and I crossed it with my bad leg, and I can remember he just like me out of it basically, for the bad cross. I nearly started crying on the pitch, it was like I had to pull the jumper up over my face. I was kind of going, Jesus, I was like, I can't believe it. My one of my idols, I played him a shit pass, but when I went to Liverpool, it was different. We were training with these lads, like we trained with the first team lads, and I didn't give a shite, because they were like kind of the sworn enemy at the time. I wasn't as nervous, but they were just very, very friendly, really friendly, and And there was a few Irish lads were there as well. I mean, Ray Houghton was there, Ronnie Whelan was there, Steve Staunton was there. So, sorry, he wasn't there, actually. I met him afterwards. He came after. So, it just made the decision, and that was it. It was done. Was it the wrong one? Was the right one? We don't know. But in hindsight, maybe. But at the end of the day, I was very, very lucky, privileged young lad to have them problems at 16 years of age.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think it's very difficult to say looking back what you can only make the decision with the information you had at the time. And I said, whether it was Nottingham Forest or Liverpool or Man United, I think it is so tough to know how things can work out any which way. So yeah, I think you can't tough to have regrets about whether you should have gone to Forest or United.
There's so much information there now. At the time you're like a guinea pig as such. There was no one really in my position that I could look to.
So who was kind of so was it John and your parents, were they the main kind of advisors to you at this point?
Yeah, that's all I had really. That's all I knew. There wasn't anyone else. There wasn't agents. There wasn't, there was no one else really. I know that the Irish had started to kind of, the FAS course was up and running when Roy Keane was a product of it.
Yeah.
And they were kind of edging the team we had. The under-15 team we had was quite good, they felt. So they were trying to make a play for us all staying, going on the FAS course for 2 years, sticking together, training full time. But a couple of us decided, look, I didn't want to go to school, and I wasn't. I couldn't turn down an opportunity to go to England. So 3 or 4 of us went to England, and the rest of them stayed. They went on the FAS course. Some didn't bother going on the FAS course, but there was no one really there for guidance. There was no one kind of to the picture. There was no internet. There was nothing.
Yeah, it's different.
You just do it off the cuff. You make a decision, and it was the times we were in, and it was great. At the time it was great buzz and all that. But look, you get older, you start looking back and start analysing things. But look, you can't think like that.
Yeah.
It's mapped out for you. It is what it is, and and off you go.
That's it. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned just the kind of the FAI plan or the Irish plan there. I think it's still the FAI and the Irish system still hasn't decided exactly what they want to do or how best to produce young players. So interesting to hear that back then it was still kind of similar. It wasn't always about getting fellas over the water. They were looking at keeping some at home. It's interesting that was the situation. So you're 16 now. You've arrived at Liverpool. So I suppose just firstly, what's the vibe of the club like Liverpool? They're still, I said for some people now it is they're back. I think we can fairly say they're back to being one of the biggest clubs in the world now again. But there was a barren old spell there in the kind of the 90s and the 2000s where Liverpool weren't one of the top teams. You're arriving at the club and they're still pretty much the team in England. Could you feel that?
Yeah,
at the club?
they'd won the league. They'd won the league the season previous, so they were still the team as such. But Souness had kind of Dalglish had went. Souness had taken over, and he had decided he was going to do things a bit differently. Wanted to put his own stamp on it, and he left a few players go. That's what happened. He had left Steve Staunton go. He'd left a couple go. He brought a few in. Couple of controversial decisions and that, but it was kind of the start of their demise as such. But it was, again, it was funny. It was different because you're looking at now. So much about what happens now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Back then, it was like you didn't, and it was like, the drinking culture was there. It was acceptable. It wasn't, there was no one chasing fellas around. The media, there was waste of time. It wasn't anything great to see a Sunday morning a footballer falling out of a nightclub because it was just like, it was the norm. But it was, Liverpool was kind of like a family run club, as such. Like you fought and scrapped for your soccer boots, you fought and scrapped for your training kit. When you didn't have a pair of socks, they didn't just give you it, they'd send you off on a wild goose chase. Find your socks, and if your boot got, if there was holes in your boots, you didn't get a new pair. They went to the cobbler and they got cobbled. And that was,
Yeah.
They tried to make you fight for everything, like.
Yeah. And do you think that was a purposeful culture thing for the club? Did they, Joe, did they implement this kind of stuff? Do you think it was just that was always the way it was,
It
or
was always the way, yeah.
yeah,
They were always kind of like they were always like that, I think. But again, look, I mean, the coaches and that. I mean, I felt that, being from Ireland, that it was tricky. Like you had the coaches there, Phil Thompson, Sammy Lee. They were Scousers, and there was definitely a little bit of favoritism towards the local lads as such.
yeah,
A couple of the Irish. It was just very, very hard being homesick. They were going home to their parents every day after having a bad day at the office, like, whereas you're going home to a house with another couple of lads that are homesick, and
yeah,
one thing leads to another, like, as such. It
good,
was just like mentally very, very hard. Like,
yeah,
you're 16 years of age, and your life is just upheavaled.
yeah,
It wasn't set up for that back then.
yeah,
As opposed to now, there's an awful lot of things in place for lads going over. Everything has changed now. Like, I mean, the platform even to get back to England now, most League of Ireland clubs are in good shape, good pitches, academies, good standard. Like, if you stay at home now, you've a great opportunity that if you're good enough, you will get to England. But back then, it was like, you got an opportunity, you just had to take it, and you jumped all over it, because the structure wasn't there in League of Ireland at the time to, like, say I'm going to stay here and I'm going to progress and I'll be good enough when I'm 18, 19, they'll take me.
yeah.
It wasn't. Whereas here now, kind of is. If you're a young lad now and you're banging in goals for a team in the Premier Division, even the First Division, if you're young,
Yeah.
The clubs are taking punts on you, like. But back then it was tougher.
Yeah.
But so I think it was basically you just came in. There was no kind of allowance for the fact that you're a young kid and you're over here on your own. It was like, here you go, sink or swim, and that was that. Like,
yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with you. With the as I said, I can imagine you're basically you're a 16-year-old Limerick guy. If you compare that to a 16-year-old Limerick guy now, it's still, I still think it's still a very difficult decision for young players. Do they kind of take the gamble and go over to England and try and make it, or do they stay at home and maybe try and progress in the League of Ireland to get a chance at a later stage? Joe, I still think that's it's still a difficult decision. But as I said, Joe, at your age, it was basically, you probably felt, if I don't go now, that could be it. That could be the no chance of a career. Yeah.
And I didn't have much interest in school either, so it was kind of an easier decision. It's tougher, I think, if you're academically, doing well and you've got aspirations.
Especially at 16, I think. It's 18, 19 is different, but when you're 15, 16, it's putting all your eggs in the football basket is can be a difficult difficult decision. I suppose just from a footballing point of view, firstly, what did you learn at Liverpool? What was the training like, the coaching like? How intense was it?
Very, very intense. Coaching wise, they would have been still. It wouldn't have been as advanced as it is now. It was kind of at the time when some of the players, that if you were a great player and you wanted to be a coach, you went back and you coached, but the badges weren't really such in place that if you didn't have your pro license, you couldn't coach this level, and so on and so forth. These people, basically just, look, I'm a professional footballer, I'm finished my career, I'm going to take up management. And it was, you go in and you took a job, and if you done well, you done well. If you didn't, you didn't.
Yeah.
It was, that was the way it was. Training session, like, it was very good. It was, I'd be lying. Like, Steve Holloway was my boss as such, and like, I think he was ahead of himself, to be fair. He was very, very good coach.
Yeah.
Worked in the States as well before that. Then you had like Sammy Lee, Phil Thompson. It wasn't really as much coaching. It was about winning, So it was like work, really. You're in a training session and you can give the ball away. You give the ball away, you're getting screamed at, like, you know. So it's like the line and work, like, and you make a mistake, like, you're getting fucked out of it. Like, it was like that.
Do
You
you
know, the
think?
pressure was on you. You know, if the play broke down because of you, it was stop, fucking roaring, like, why did you, you know, your touch was shit and blah blah blah. Why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? You know, so it was high pressure, and it
Do
was
you think
tough
that
going.
helped?
I can see what they were thinking at
Yeah,
the time. They were thinking, like, you know, if you can't handle a bit of pressure in training, how are you going to handle 40,000 people?
yeah,
You know, so how are you trusted if you can't deal with 3 or 4 coaches screaming at you? How are you going to deal with standing up in Anfield, making your debut in front of 30, 40,000, or away from home? You get a bad first touch. What are you going to do? So they kind of look for that attitude of, like, you know, would you be bowled? You
yeah,
know, at the time you don't understand that. You're thinking, Jesus, I'll be all nice and mannerly. But they probably nearly wanted you to back back. They nearly wanted you to tell them to go off. Do you know what I mean? And have a bit of balls about you.
yeah, yeah. I was listening to an interview the other night with Danny Higginbottom, and he was saying that one of his kind of coaches when he was a young player was constantly, he asked him the question eventually, says, why was it every time that your training broke down, you go out of your way to bring it back to me? And the coach said to him that, the second a manager or a coach stops, spending time with you at training, you're finished. So it's a case of, you know, the fact they are constantly on your case can be a good sign.
Yeah, but like at the time, you know, looking back, you know, I must have been doing something right, because I did get a lot of
Yeah.
bollockings in training. But you don't think like that, you know, and no
No,
one
you
kind of
don't.
pulls you aside and says it to
Exactly.
you. And
Yeah.
like, you know, I can remember, you know, it really gets you down. I know you're away from home and
Yeah.
you've no one to turn to. There was no WhatsApp, there was no Facebook, there was no free phone calls. My first phone bill, I think I got digs. I think I £800 sterling. I think it came to. I was on the phone so much home.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it was
Uh,
just, you just go home and you're in bits, and you're missing everyone. You're missing your mates and everything. You know, it's tough going. And then you have a bad day in the office, but it's very, very hard. Whereas the local lads go home to their mum and dad, and this was shit. They probably had a dad to put their arm around their shoulder and say, listen,
yeah.
you know, he's only talking to you. He's only giving out to you because he sees something in you, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was tough. As you said, it wasn't that you woke up every day and say, look, I really enjoy, I can't wait to go to training. It wasn't really like that.
Yeah.
Um, like, if you had a good day and the matches were played and you'd done really well, you were buzzing. But if you had a bad day, like, it was a lonely place, and, you know, a lonely time.
Yeah. I think it's, firstly, I think just with the kind of the coaching and managing point of view, I think there's a far greater respect for the fact that, different things works with different players. And, not all players respond to Joe getting the bollocking every day. Joe, some respond better to other, Joe, the kind of carrot and stick. So it's something that's so prominent now is sports psychology. Was there any mention of any kind of psychology, any kind of mental game preparation? Was there anything spent? Was it all physical and technical?
Yeah, there was nothing like that.
Yeah,
It was all physical, technical, and, you know, roll your sleeves up, work hard. It was the real kind of, you know, you hear Roy Keane touching on it. You know, when he was in that brilliant interview he done, and, you know, he was never asked to do crazy stuff. You know, he was asked to do what he was good at. You
yeah,
know, can you get the ball, not lose it, do it quickly, and do what you do. You know, do what you're good at,
yeah,
basically. Like, not given 56 instructions. I'm sure the game today is a lot more complex.
yeah.
A lot more information to take on board, of a lot more technology. Whereas back
Mhm.
then it was kind of, you know, it was the fundamentals of the game, you know, and sometimes you can get bogged down in the greatness, you know, of what some teams do. You know, I think the Sheffield United manager was brilliant when he said about Liverpool. He said, you
Yeah,
can take all your systems, formations, and Firmino drop it into pockets and causing us problems. He said, they outran us.
yeah,
They ran harder, they worked harder, they tackled harder, they passed the ball quicker. And, like, they're the fundamentals of football, and don't ever lose sight of that. You can talk about them being a great side and what to do. And even if you look at the great Barcelona sides, they worked their socks off.
Yeah,
off the ball. They
absolutely.
really worked hard, and they were brilliant to watch. Xavi, Iniesta, Messi.
Yeah,
But by God, did they work hard.
yeah,
And that was kind of the level. That was the difference in the level over there. You had to work hard. There was no room for passengers. And that was it. It was high intensity. You were training 5 days a week. Everyone was flying fit. You were athletes. So, the game, you didn't get a split second. You didn't
yeah,
get no time. And that's when the really, really good players would make time for themselves. You'd see it. It would
yeah,
stick out like a sore thumb how good they were.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the first and foremost, football is you have to be tough to beat. You have to be honest, and as you said, the fundamentals are the fundamentals. I think the great teams that we're seeing nowadays, it's a lot of kind of fine tuning and perfecting those margins. But the actual the game itself, if you don't do the fundamentals right, you will not win football games. It's as simple as that.
I think they're a lot more tactically clever now. The player now has to be, like, whereas back then it was you basically was a 4-4-2. Most teams played it. Everybody knew their jobs, but some lads wouldn't have a bloody notion what the centre back has to do. Whereas now I think the players are very, very intelligent now to play into the system and where they have to be and go. It's a lot more complex than what it was back then.
Yeah,
You said on the terms of the psychology and stuff. We have a WhatsApp group with the lads I used to play with, and there's one of the lads in the group, Ian Brunskill. He ended up being Blackburn Rovers number 2. I played with him in the U teams and that, and the reserves and whatever, and he actually went through the proper coaching ladder badges, to get up his pro license. Funny enough, he said, like, Sammy Lee, who had already been at a higher level, had to do some of the courses that he had done. Because he had never done them, and Steve Highway, who would have been his boss, had to do some of these courses as well, and he'd met him on them, and he had said that the one thing that they said was that things have changed so much, and the one regret they had was they said that they were very, very harsh on us, and if they could change anything, they wouldn't have been so hard. They kind of see now what I was trying to say a while ago, that that you take into account he's a kid away from home. And not just the kids from home, the local lads as well. That that they take that into account now, whereas back then it was just tunnel vision. It was
I think there was one way of doing things, and
that was it.
That was it.
There was no other way. You were soft, or you were a pussy if you tried to go down the other route. It was like, that's not how they grew up. That's not how they were brought into it. It was tough. Survival of the fittest, like. And if you're not strong enough, piss off.
Yeah. What would you say? Was there ever a point you considered coming home? Do you ever think about changing clubs? How did you feel about that kind of stuff at the time?
Yeah, I was very, 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 very homesick. I used to like I was a little bit naughty in the sense. I used to, like, if I wanted to go home, I used to play shit on purpose, like.
Okay.
So I'd
but
go
even
out and I'd put the sleeves over the hands, and I'd stand up in the wing, and then eventually they'd be screaming and roaring, and then you knew if you didn't work hard or didn't do something, you would haul into the office. So I used to get hauled into the office and just say, I'm homesick. Now, to be fair to him, the minute I said the word homesick, I did get on a flight home.
Okay. So there was some appreciation, at least, for
Joe. There was a little bit, There was a little bit. To be fair, but it just got to the stage where you had to do that to get home, though. If you'd asked to go home, it was like, nah. But if your performance was suffering, you got to get home. So eventually one or two of us used to, like, say, right, I'm having a shitter today. Why? Because I want to go home. So you just play shit, to draw attention to yourself, like.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but it was, it was just, you think of, funny stories. I can remember playing an A-team game. Back then the setup was different to now. You had your B team, which was under 18. You were allowed 2 overage players. You had an A team, which is basically your third team, and that was open age. That was play the first team if you want,
Yeah.
your reserves and your first team. So we played an 8-team game one day, and what they used to do with them games was they'd bring back the first team players from injury. So before they could go back to the first team, they'd play with us, 90 minutes with us in an A-team game or a B-team game. Depends who was at home on the given Saturday.
Yeah.
So I can remember Jamie Redknapp was coming back from injury. And I can remember, obviously, I was playing right wing, and it was a fella called Michael Brown, I think it was. He played for City and he played for Sheffield United.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
Player,
Michael Brown. Yeah,
fullback, tough player now. And I can remember I was really, really quick back in the day, believe it or not. Very, very quick. And the different. You look at the class of player. We were playing on our 18 pitch, which is an absolute snooker table, right? Beautiful pitch, massive. And I can remember Redknapp just said to me before the game, he said, look, Paul, he said, the minute I get the ball, no matter where I am on the pitch, the second I get it, even if I have my back to you, just take off.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, all right, fair enough. I'll listen to him. Simple instruction. So I was told to hug the touchline. Every time he got the ball, honest to God, Jamie, it was ridiculous, right? I just take off. Brown's first instinct was said to step in,
Yeah.
and next thing he'd ping it. But he'd ping it in such a way that like Brown would think he could get it. So he'd step in another few yards and then he'd go, fuck, I've missed it. And I'm in, one touch, boom, byline. So I've absolutely destroyed this lad. And I've done nothing. I've just basically done what I was told to do. I've destroyed a very, very good player. So it's half time. Steve I was the manager. And I remember he's going around the dressing room, and when you're the innocence of a kid, like I think I'm 16 years of age, and I'm kind of going, Redknapp is buzzing, he's back playing after a while, and he's like, we're going well, lads, we're winning 1 or 2-0. I think I've made 2 goals. And he's looking around, how are you, Paul? He says, you all right? And he says, he's looking at me, he goes, you okay, Paul? And I goes, yeah. He goes, what's wrong with you? I just wonder, Steve, can I go home next week? I thought because I was doing so well,
yeah.
in the first half, I said, like, he let me go now. So I've asked him in front of the whole dressing room at half time in a match, can I go home? And he's just shook his head. I remember Redknapp has just pissed himself laughing. I just can't believe that. He's just having a worldly of a game and you're asking, can you go home next week? But it was just, that's how you're, that's how you're thinking.
Yeah, it's that's the way your mind is kind of working. You're hoping if you're in the good books you could afford
I said to myself, if I don't do well in the second half now, I've missed my opportunity, and he'll tell me no. So I'm striking while the iron's hot. So I've asked him in the dressing room at half time. And everyone's had a giggle about it, but look, you look back at that now and you kind of go, Jesus, but it's just the innocence of a kid. I was only a kid at the end of the day. Like,
I think we often hear about youth players doing kind of boot cleaning and all that kind of stuff for senior players. Was that done at Liverpool? And what kind of were there any other job kind of procedures or rituals or things that how did they kind of try to integrate the young players into the club?
It was the old school way, yeah. We'd done we all had our boot. I was lucky enough, I had Ronnie Whelan, and he was very good to me.
Yeah.
Some of the boys were, some of the boys had players and you'd get nothing, but like you do their boots, but they used to give you a nice few quid at Christmas and at the end of the season,
Yeah.
And if you had a player that you had the same boot size of, he'd give you boots and whatever.
Yeah.
But like, that was it. We'd done our jobs, like we had our chores to do. We'd, wash out the dressing rooms, collect all the kit, put it in the washing machine, hang it in the drying room, clean out the showers, the baths. At the time, it was, you had the big baths.
Yeah.
So that was that was the worst job, really. That was the one that, that was the punishment one. That was the one, if you'd stepped out of line or done something, you're on the baths and the toilets for a month, so that was all done. It was all part of it, yeah. But then when you turn pro, then you don't. And in a way, I kind of missed it, because when it was the last 2 years of being a pro, like, you didn't really have to do the jobs. So I was finished every day, like at 12:30. Quarter to 1, just walking out the gate, nothing to do. So, we just go to the bookies, or we'd go to the pub, or whatever we do. There was 3 or 4 of us there living in the house. So
Yeah.
It was probably better
Um,
when you were doing it, you were entertained and you had stuff to do. And
yeah.
I know today, like, that they can still, like, they train in the afternoon, they do double sessions, and they go to college, and there's plenty of things you can do. You can do whatever courses while you're a player and stuff. You can do your schooling, but back
Yeah.
then there was none of that. Like,
I think even today, something as simple as they can play the Xbox, they can
yeah,
have a chat, they can go to the masseuse, they can go to the sports psychologist, they can it's just very different. And probably it's another thing that we have to remember, football has advanced so much in the last kind of 10-20 years that all of this was kind of a learning process. And as you said, Joe, you're still a very young man, and you're finished work at in the early afternoon. What do you do? There's no guidance there.
yeah, there was nothing there. I went to Coventry for kind of a weekend or for a few days. As I said, my good friend of mine, Willie Boland, signed for Coventry, and as you know, he ended up having a career in the game, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
And he got his opportunity. But Coventry and Nottingham Forest actually had like a lodge where you all the players stayed under the one roof, and
Okay.
they were cooked for, and they were probably, I presume, they were entertained. But it was like an army barracks. Like, you signed out when you left the lodge, and you had to be back by a certain time, in the evening time and what have you.
Yeah.
Whereas it was probably a good, because we were just like to a digs, and like, didn't give a shite. Like, we had no contact or anyone with the club until the following morning when we went to training. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So you were just living in the digs in Liverpool. You were looking after yourselves with everything. Were you given what did you do for food, that kind of stuff? Did you cook
yeah, well, look,
yourselves?
the lady in the digs would have cooked for us, all right. She'd
Okay.
cook and do our washing, but like, we paid her, like,
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. 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 There was
And it
a
was a
yeah.
lovely house. Like, it was brilliant digs, and it was in a really nice area. It wasn't far from the training pitch. I lived across from the pitch for the first year. I lived with Mark Kenny, actually. Mark Kenny's working for the FAI now, and he played with Rovers and that. I lived with him for the first year. He was great, trying to get over the homesickness and that.
Yeah.
Then I was moved down to West Derby near the pitch, and I was with, 3 or 4 of us in the house. One lad was from Teesside, the other lad was from Scotland, another lad from Warrington. And there was 1 or 2 lads then that were living around that area. But it was a really, really nice area.
Yeah.
Brookside, close. Where Brookside is the show.
Oh
It
yeah.
was
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It was right next to that. It was a
Okay.
nice area, but again, it was tough. Like, we spent a lot of, like, the bookies. We'd walk past the bookies every day. We'd spend time in there. Like, and it wasn't even about money. It was just filling boredom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This and that, and
I
doing the
think that's
pools. And,
yeah. Yeah. Well, I suppose what was the kind of the like the social side of things, you kind of touched on it. Obviously the drinking culture was a lot bigger back then. There was a lot more of a gambling culture. What was the time like outside the football, both kind of the good sides and the bad sides of it? Did you enjoy it overall, or do you think you struggled with the just filling the time?
um, like, I did. I enjoyed it. We had some brilliant times. We did, and the social side of it was very good. We made our own crack. We made our own laugh.
Yeah.
But I think it was just very, very tough. The homesick side of it, like, it was,
Yeah.
when you're sitting down on your own and you're thinking, as you said, you didn't have that access that you have now.
Mm.
You really are alienated. Like, you really are on your own. Like, even little things like walking to the shop or going to town. Like, you don't hear anyone salute you. You're not going to bump into anyone.
Yeah.
And whereas in Limerick or something, you're walking down the street, you're chatting, and, well, how are you, and whatever. But it's just strange. Like, when you're young, mentally, but very, very hard. But when we got out, like, we'd some crack. Like, you could imagine, as I said,
Yeah.
it was, drinking was unacceptable. The first team lads, some of them mingled with us a lot. To be fair, if they were having a beer, they'd say, "You coming?" And you'd go, like, sure, you're in awe of them, like,
Yeah.
Jan Mulby says, "Lads, who fancies going to the Barry's for a game of pool?" And after training, and you're going, "Fuck that, I'm gone."
Yeah. Yeah.
Before you know it, like, you're above for a game of pool to have a pint. The next thing, 2 or 3 more of the first team arrive in, and you're just out. Like, and that was the way it was. Like,
Yeah. Was there any good stories from those kind of nights? Was there any kind of pranks you had to pull as younger players, or any any hazing or any of that kind of stuff that you had to go through as young players at the club?
Really, we used to, like, myself and my mate, it got so bad at one stage for us, coming towards the end. We were so so homesick, and there was days there we'd lost interest, that we used to, like, say who could touch the ball the least amount of times in training, like.
Okay.
So we'd have one of the lads judging it, like, so you were trying to not get the ball, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it was a little bit like a childish, like, attention seeking to see would they pull you in so you could say, "Can I go home?"
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, like, we had our, like, we used to do. You used to have to get the kit, so you'd have, like, top, shorts, t-shirt, top, towel, and then you had the socks. So you made a bundle out of that. So you can imagine wrapping the kit up in a towel,
Yeah.
and then you tie it in a sock, and the socks would tie it up, and there was a number on the towel and a number on the socks, and that was everyone's kit.
Yeah.
So we used, at the end of the day, like, the kit would have to be washed, dried, and the first team's kit would have to be left out, and that's how it was left out at the time.
Yeah.
You can imagine it now, like, the way it's left out from it. It was a bundle. So we'd go into the dressing room, but what you used to do is you just turn the lights off, and we'd start battering each other with the bundles. So you don't know who's battering who or what, like. And I can remember one day, Robbie Fowler and Ashley Neal, Phil Neal's son, and the lights went out, and next thing, a bundle was thrown, and the lights came on, and Ash was sitting on the ground with, like, 12 stitches. His head was busted.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He'd got a hit with the bundle, and his head hit the wall. So there was absolutely blue murder over it. And it was talking about, we'd throw him out of the club, but it was Robbie Fowler. Like, you weren't going to throw him out of the club.
Yeah, it's a tough one to explain.
Yeah, he got away with it, like, as such. But I mean, look, it was pranks. It was the usual, carry on, like, we were kids, as you said. But there was no kind of initiation or anything like that, singing songs like they do now, which was a bit more harmless, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose, kind of looking back at the overall kind of Liverpool experience, firstly, what advice would you give your younger self? And secondly, what advice would you give an Irish 16 or 17-year-old today that has the opportunity to go to England?
Look, times have changed now.
Yeah.
I think, but the one thing I would look at is like, in hindsight, I look back at myself and say, look, because I'd followed Man United, if I had signed for them, would I have done a little bit better? Maybe, I don't know.
Interesting.
But then it's, it was when things got low for me. Like, I wasn't such a Liverpool fan. It was kind of easier to kind of throw the towel in as such and feel sorry for yourself. Whereas, if I had fallen on with United, would I have had that little bit more drive? The fact I was a fan. But that's my own personal thing. But I just think now there is a clear argument now for a young lad getting your education, staying at home. Structures are here in Ireland, if you're good enough. I mean, like, if you're in the Shamrock Rovers team at the minute at 18, 19 years of age, there's a very good chance that you could be good enough to go to England.
Yeah.
They're being watched every day. Like, every time they play, they're training every day. The caliber of coach and Stephen Bradley up there. They had Damien Duff in there. They have, the contacts are there now. So I don't think you really need to run to England now, as much as it's hard not to.
It's not as much all or nothing.
Yeah, and I do think, though, that it would be, if I could look back at myself again, the only regret, as I said, I was really, really lucky, blessed. And I had a brilliant life, to say, at that time. Very, very lucky. But I just think that maybe the Nottingham Forest option, or someone a club that's basically going to invest in you and try and get you through. Whereas Liverpool was like a conveyor belt. You come in this year, but the following year you've got the next big thing a year below you, and following year, so you can just end up getting pushed to the side.
Yeah.
Whereas the smaller club have decided, right, I'm going to invest in Paul O'Donnell, so we're giving him a 3-year deal. We need this guy to get our first team, or we need to sell him on. So how are we going to do this? We're going to invest our time in him. We're going to try and get him through. We're going to give him opportunities. And you probably will. You have a better chance of getting the opportunity with a smaller club, as you will with the big club,
Yeah.
Like it was tough. I mean, back then there was only 2 subs, as opposed to now.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. That's
2 subs. So you try to make a first team squad trying to make the reserve squad for us was even so hard. I mean, I was up against Mark Walters and Ishvan Kozma. He wasn't great now, but at the same time, the fact that they were signed by the club for a sum of money.
Yeah.
And the kind of rule of thumb was like they played. So even if you were doing better than them, unless you were really doing well, they had to play because they had to earn their wages. So if the first team weren't happy with them because they were dragging their heels, they were made go on the reserve team bus to Sheffield or Burnley or wherever it may be, because they had to be justifying their couple of grand a week wages, So and they were made play. So it was hard. Whereas the smaller clubs wouldn't have so many players, on their books, and you'd get that opportunity more so, But again, you have to earn it, and you have to. There's no easy way to it, anyone that's done it. I mean, I look at what Willie Bolden achieved. Brilliant out of him, absolutely phenomenal. To play like 40 odd games in the Premier League with Coventry, and then have a career with Cardiff in the Championship as such. Playing it every week. I mean, it's just brilliant. That he managed to do that, and he kind of took the route that I spoke about there. But it was still a Premier League club he went on, Coventry. But he was a very, very good player, and they invested time in him, and he got his chance and he took it. But probably an easier opportunity to get a chance than probably where I had went to.
Yeah. It's definitely like you can see it. I think that from that point of view, as we've said, Joe, the game has changed so much. But I think that kind of decision point is still very relevant for a lot of kids today. It's like, do you try and break in at the big club? Do you go a smaller club? Do you stay in Ireland? So I think there's a lot. As much as it has changed, there's still a lot of principles that can be applied, Joe, from your time and from kind of Willie's time, that the best what is the best route to go down.
Look, it's still it's still at the end of the day, like you can say, you can preach it, and but it's very, very hard to tell a Manchester United or a Liverpool, no, I'm going to go to a smaller club as such.
Yeah.
It's easy in theory, it is, but
it is, of course.
When they come knocking, it is very, very hard. It is very, very hard.
Everyone's dream. Looking back at the time at Liverpool, is there any one or two particular memories that stands out the most for you?
We won when I was under. We won a European tournament in Bars. It was played in Atletico Bilbao. It was a tournament there that had Ajax, it had Atletico Madrid, it had Barcelona, Real Madrid, ourselves, Sporting Gijon, PSV. It was all the big guns were really represented there.
Yeah, heavy hitters there.
And we ended up winning it. Which was great. We beat Barcelona 3-2 in the final. And it was played in Real Sociedad's main pitch, like on the ground. We beat them 3-2 the same day. Like, we played in that game. That was like something that that'll stick with me forever. But I think I was lucky. I played with some really, really good players. I managed to play with Ronnie Whelan one day in an 8-team game. I played with John Barnes, which was how good he was is just unbelievable.
He's definitely definitely one of my
He was
favorite players. I definitely
the
encourage.
greatest player I've ever played with as such, or seen every day in training.
Yeah,
Just unbelievable. It's the only word for him. Like,
yeah,
unbelievable. How he
um,
changed from being a quick winger to a centre midfielder that you couldn't get the ball off. But I think, look, for me, the most thing I'm proud of is that fact that, like, I was 4 years there. The first 2 years, you got to do college once a week.
yeah,
So I was under 16, I was under 17. I was finished college then. I'd done my 2-year course, whereas the rest of the lads still had to do their college on the Thursday. So I was the only one left for 2 years. I was the only one in on my own. So I was training with the first team for 2 years every Thursday. At the start, I used to be shitting myself every morning, kind of going, "Oh no, I have to go in now." But eventually, I loved it, and I didn't look out of place on the Thursday. And I think I remember Sammy Lee, who I didn't get on with. He used to say to me, "How come you look such a good player here, and you go down with your own lads then, and you're dragging your heels?" So I was like, at the time, I couldn't even answer that question. I was just a kid.
yeah,
I was just like, I was happy. I fitted in, done well, and didn't look out of place. Training with them for 2 years, because like if you were out of place, they wouldn't let you play. Like, you'd be
yeah,
left out of the game. That's it. But I was asked to play every single Thursday, so in that sense, it's a great memory to be just sharing the pitch with Barnes and McManaman and
yeah,
some of these players, like for 2 hours, a week for 2 years, which was great. But yeah, look, it was great memories. But again, it was just tough. As I said, it was tough being away, and it was tough mentally.
yeah, yeah. Um, so at the end of as your Liverpool career came to an end, what was the kind of what did you think the next phase of your life would look like? What were your plans after the Liverpool time?
Um, to be honest, like, be brutally honest about it, I'd kind of had enough.
Yeah,
Sick of football. Sick to my arse. I just wanted to go home, really.
yeah,
I couldn't wait to go home. I was at the stage where I think if they'd pulled me in and offered me another year, I probably would have told them no. Like,
yeah. And you
it's
definitely
strange.
no desire to look at other clubs in England, or you just
I
weren't
thought
in
I
that
thought I
mindset.
would. It was strange. Like, I thought I would.
Yeah,
I had a couple of opportunities because I'd went to a few clubs like leading up to it. I went to West Ham. They tried to sign us, and I went around a couple of places, and we played them, and you remember faces. I stayed in a few of the youth development officers. I stayed in their house, say, for a night or two when I was over there, and I remember West Ham. We played them in the Youth Cup, and I remember coming off the bench and just like doing really well, turning the game on its head, and they couldn't figure out, asking me why I was on the bench, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just not happy. And they were like, would you not come? But another year left. They were
yeah,
like, would you just come down to us? And I can remember thinking, like, they were saying, if you finish up, to give us a shout, and I just never bothered. Like, it was just funny feeling, real surreal feeling. It was like I just wanted to go home. So
yeah,
I did, and then I just started fucking playing with my mates, drinking with the lads. Went back, and I could have signed for Cork. I can remember Wrexham, my mate that I lived with, Garrett Roberts, played 1 or 2 first team games at Liverpool. He ended up captain in Wales, actually. Him and his dad, they were ringing me saying, "You're all over the back page of the Wrexham paper that you're signing." And I was like, "What?" So they sent me on the paper, like, you couldn't even see the screenshot back then. But
yeah,
Wrexham had been on to me, so some had got hold of it about some Liverpool starlet or whatever you want to call it. It was back
yeah.
page, and I was like, Jesus, the first I heard of it. So it actually got to the press before Wrexham had rang me.
Okay,
I
okay.
remember I'd been drinking and that. I'd been drinking for a few weeks, and I was like, Brian Flynn was ringing me, and I took the phone call, and I'd said, "Yeah, look," I said, "Brian," I said, "just give me 2 weeks, and I'll ring you back." But I never rang him back. I just looked at my mother after the phone call and said, "Look, I don't want to go. I don't want to go away again." Like,
Yeah,
so I had a few offers from the state. Use the phone. Another one.
Yeah.
Would you believe that Shane Tracy ringing me? Another lad that was over in England.
Okay.
He might have a few
Limerick,
stories.
Limerick footballing royalty, yeah.
Yeah. Another one that we can tell you a few good stories, I'd say.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. So I just said, look, I came back and had enough. Had a few good opportunities, didn't take them. To this day, I do regret that. That is a regret. But I just kind of put it away, and I said, look, I'll take a year out and I'll go back then. But that
Yeah.
doesn't happen. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
when you need to kind of be there while you're hot.
Yeah.
And you start slipping down. You start slipping down playing at, junior level and whatever. You end up becoming that player, and it's very hard to come back up.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think
I mean, Limerick at the time, it was Hogan Park. You were up to your muck, your ankles in muck. It was real, Route 1 football. All I wanted to do was get a ball down and ping it and pass it. But sure, it wasn't for me back then. So that wasn't appealing. So I just signed for Granville. Back there, but I Granville for a while, and then went to Fairview.
Yeah.
Do you had a good time with Fairview? We won an FAI Junior Cup there as well. That was a good time.
Yeah. Do you think at the time were you because it sounds like everyone, Joe, it's a lot of conflicting emotions coming from a lot of different places. Do you think you fell out of love with the game, or do you think it was more the circumstances surrounding the game that you would have been perfectly happy playing? It wasn't football, it was just more the being away from your home, being away from your family. Do you think that was more the thing, or were you worn out from the football itself as well?
It was a bit of both, really. A bit of both, I think. Mentally, I was worn out. I did want to be home around my family. Like I did miss my mum and dad and that, and my sister. We were close knit family. So I did miss all that. And then I was just like, I just wanted to play, but I was just playing then for the lads. As such, when I went to Fairview, it was the lads in the dressing room. I'm still good mates with a lot of them to this day. Like, you're close friends, but it was more so I needed to play to try and help them, to do well, as much as I love football. But like, I always trained. Like, I never really missed training. I would have been a bit of a lad for a Saturday night pint, all right, but I'd always turn up. Do you know what I mean? And that. But it was just the way it was. I'd done it in England as well. It was just the way it had went for me, like, as such.
Yeah. Did you, I suppose, just at its most basic elements, did you enjoy your junior career playing for Granville and Fairview?
I played with Granville it didn't last too long. With Granville, I needed to get a job in that, and Fairview had got me a job. And I played a bit with Fairview, and then I was absolutely roasted with hernias. Like, I've had 4 of them. I had 1 in England, 3 here, and before I finished up around like 30, 31 even. I needed to get it done again, and I was like, I'm not getting it done again. I'm not going through the 4th one. But it kind of, I always kind of felt I was playing through kind of an injury as such, and then put on a bit of weight. But when I took a break from it, actually, I went and signed for Ashling and Acadie for 2 years. I dropped down to Division 1A, and Tom Foley was a manager, and I was Trevor Lavelle was playing there. Ian Sullivan was playing. Ronan Hanron was playing. And we'd a crack side. Colin Fleming was goalkeeper. He used to play with Fairview, won the FAI, and it was just brilliant. It was just a laugh. You'd go out on a Saturday night, you'd turn up on a Sunday, you'd go drinking on the Sunday afterwards, and like I kind of fell back in love with football back then. There was no pressure. It was just enjoyment. And I really liked playing. And it was, I really enjoyed that. To be fair, it was kind of, it was just like, there was no pressure on. I just go and play and enjoy the crack, and that was that. So that was 2 years I really enjoyed. I'd managed then to end up signing for Janesborough for a season or a couple of seasons as well. I enjoyed my time there. With Dermot Clancy was a manager. Played with some good players down there, Jason O'Connor and Anthony Tobin and Brian Lawler, and it was just one naming names now, but we did Crackside, Alan O'Keefe.
Yeah.
Fairview were really, really good at the time. Really, really strong, winning FAIs, and we couldn't really match them, but really enjoyed the time, especially Dermot Clancy more so. He was just brilliant. Really enjoyed. He was just the manager. He joined in the game of ball. He was a good player, and really enjoyed my time there under him. But look, I suppose the year with Fairview, like we won the FAI, that was one of the memories that I'll have, for my life.
Yeah,
was playing in Dalymount Park. There was thousands there. See some of the old pictures, and
yeah.
I remember I was left out for it. I was disappointed, and he's trooping on. I think I was drunk on the Friday, and I drank on the Saturday even. I was so pissed off that I couldn't play in that big game, but part of it was my own fault, for the way I kind of carried on. But I was brought on with 35 minutes to go, and the game was 0-0, and I just ended up having it was like the 35 minutes I had when I was under 15.
History repeating itself.
I had so much anger and frustration at not being able to play on the big occasion and the big game, and everything just went right. I ended up making a goal, and we won. And it was just for them lads who had been trying so hard, to win an FAI because they'd lost in semi-finals or whatever. I had just arrived back. I didn't understand what it meant.
Yeah.
But by God, did I understand what it meant after we won it. It was just something. It was one of the greatest 7 days I ever had in football. It was brilliant, the celebrations, everything. But I have great memories. Great memories, and very, very lucky. As I said, I don't want to sound like misery guts when I speak about England, but it was what it was. There's no point dressing it up.
That's
but
it.
was brilliant. It was tough. Mentally very, very tough. Takes its toll. So, but again, would I change it? I have my health, I have my 2 kids and my wife, my family, and we're all healthy, and I'm still here to tell a tale. So, I'm
most
lucky.
important
We're
thing,
lucky in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's it's all these lives are it's it's always interesting looking back, but as I say, you can't you can understand things looking backwards, but you have to live them. You have to live them going forwards, and that's all you can do. It's easy to say, if this went this way or something was different or something changed, it might have worked out differently. But as you said, you have to appreciate. I think any of us now today, we have to appreciate just how lucky we are to, being fit and healthy, being out in the world is the most important thing.
I look back at it and I think, I'd some low points, high points, but I'd managed to play with the Irish under 16s. I was under 15. I was in the U team when I was under 16. I was in the 21 squad when I was only 18. I'd managed to play nearly 40 times for my country, which was always really special. Something that I'm so proud of. It was always brilliant, no matter what. Anytime I put on that green jersey. I was very, very, when I look at it, I was lucky to play against. I played against Clarence Seedorf, Patrick Kluivert. I played against Paul Scholes, David Beckham, Gary Neville. As such, played with Robbie Fowler for 2 years as a strike partner with the U team.
Yeah.
Against Frank Lampard, and there's been some, Jamie Carragher. I played centre forward with Jamie Carragher because he was a striker when he came out of Lilleshall.
Way, Jesus, yeah.
Things like that. Training with the first team, seeing all these. So I'm very, very privileged, very, very lucky to be able to reflect and look back on all that. But just said, it just wasn't all plain sailing. But as we said, Jamie, we're here to tell the tale and have a few laughs about it. So.
It never is. It never is plain sailing, As you said, it's it's all a matter of perspective, I think, as well. For some people, making putting on any kind of Ireland shirt in any kind of context would be a life stream. So it's good that you appreciate that. There's plenty, as you said, plenty of good memories to look back on, and plenty of great achievements. Where you've I know you've done a small bit of coaching and managing recently in the last years. What do you any future in football for you now, or have you thought about it much?
I'd done it for about 9-10 years. It was kind of, I fell on top of it really. I had no interest in it. It was Kieran Judge had asked me to get involved with Limerick.
Yeah.
I got involved with Tommy Barrett actually. He was the first person that I had ever got involved with an Oscar trainer, a youth team. And I basically just shadowed him really. Like, he was young coach as well, but very, very, very good. Obviously, look what he's went on to do. You know, one of my best mates. You know, he stood with me at my wedding, so like we're fairly good mates. We keep in touch every week and that. But I was lucky in the sense of him, and then Mike Curley actually asked me to go up and get involved with Limerick, with Mick Shields, believe it or not, for an A championship team at the time. And I remember still thinking, I don't know if I'm in this game, but I was around Mike for a while, and like, what a genius of a coach, you know, absolutely way ahead of himself. One of the best coaches I've ever worked with. I couldn't speak high enough of him.
I agree completely. Just on Mike, he's I think Mike Hurley's the kind of guy actually that's whatever he'd set his mind to, I'd have full faith in him to achieve it, because I think he's just a very smart guy, very good at knowing how to approach things, and could completely agree completely that he's an excellent coach.
Very underrated, and Trevor Lavelle as well. I mean, I spent time with Mike and Trevor, and to see them in action, they make it look so easy, and it's not. You know,
it's not. It's not.
And, I don't know, Mike maybe in reflection of it now, like as a manager, is he a bit quiet or something? I don't really know. I just think for me as a player, if he was my manager, okay, he's not the most animated person in the world, but you've got to respect him, you know. And I think he didn't get a fair crack at the whip at Limerick for me. He never had a big budget. He never had the lovely pitch to play on. He just done what he had with taking junior players, really. I think a phenomenal coach. It's just great to hear he's actually doing a bit now at the minute, which is brilliant to hear, because what a waste, you know, for him not to be involved in football. But great to see him. I worked with Pat Scully. Don't really have much time for the man, but I do take what he brought to the table. I took that with me as well.
I think that's a key.
Had some really, really good parts, you know, qualities. Very, very good. So look, I did a bit, went with Limerick for a while, went to Geraldines, had an amazing 5 years with Geraldines, brilliant 5 years. No real pressure again. We went from Division 1A, nearly relegated in our first season, and 2 or 3 seasons later, we're in the Munster Junior final. We're beaten on penalties by Sheriff in the quarter final. And it came as far as it could go, really. But it's such a brilliant time there. Like, you know, we were trying to, you know, we played good football, got it down, played. The lads I worked with were brilliant. The club were brilliant. And then 2 years at my own club in Fairview. That was tough going. Massive club, a lot of pressure. Got close enough, you know, to try, and it was massive pressure up there because, you know, there hadn't been success in so long. And me being kind of one of them, but really put pressure on myself that I wanted to deliver it for a lot of my friends and that. We came close, but unfortunately there was always one or two better. You know, the Borough and Pike at the time were strong.
It's extremely competitive at the moment as well, it has to be said.
I didn't pull the trophy off. Now with Fairview at the minute, very, very strong. You know, the things have changed in junior football at the moment, and Fairview have decided to join the party as such, with the top table, and they really and truly are. You know, this season, I know it's all up in the air now, but this season they're definitely back up there. You know, things have changed. Janesborough have kind of dropped off now. They've had their little spell, and Ashling are up and coming. You know, Ballard always going to be there. Pike are still there. So the junior scene is, you know, when it's not on, you really, really miss it. Like, you know, I really miss it now. Not being able to go watch games.
I agree. Yeah.
Anything at all, I'd watch. But, you know, as I said, it's not involved at the minute. I have the little lad downstairs. He's only 18, 19 months now. So I kind of said to the wife, I wanted to give that a go. You know, looking after him and making sure that, you know, give him his undivided attention and that. So junior soccer does take up time.
Yeah, and I think unlike the playing, I think the kind of the coaching and managing aspect in junior football, or just in football in general, think taking a bit of time out from that doesn't do you any harm in the long term. And as you said, he's not going to be 18 months for much longer, so you might as well make the most of it.
No, exactly. He's a bit of crack now. Won't be long more before he'll in a few years' time they'll be walking past you.
That's it, yeah. So I think you have to make the most of it. So I think just so to finish, Paul, we'll just a couple of kind of quick fire questions for you. So first question for you: most expensive night out you've had?
Jesus, I've had a few of them. I've had a few of them. Off the head, I can't really think. It'd probably have to be one of them Cheltenham days or something when we lost our arse, or else when I was in England and I'd come home drunk and make a phone call home, and it was probably about £1 a minute or something.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Paul O'Donnell's most expensive night out was a £100 phone bill, as opposed to the not spend the money on what you might think.
Yeah.
If Liverpool had to sell Van Dijk, Trent, or Salah at the moment, who would you sell?
Jeez, not Van Dijk anyway. I'd probably sell Trent.
It is difficult one, I think.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's probably just because the two boys are probably at the minute they're so hot. It's a hard call, really. It's a hard call. Trent he's just creating so much. The game has changed. But Salah's just been doing it for so long now, consistently doing it. Even when he's not doing well, he's doing well. It's a strange one. People are writing him off. He's like, all the good centre forwards, and he's not even really a centre forward, but he still manages. He's like a fella. No matter what happens, he's going to get you 20 goals a season in the league.
I think his quality is so high. I think as far as
it's frustrating because he gets himself in so many good positions, and he does a lot of it himself, and he misses a lot of chances. But he's creating so many chances in the game. He's just a pain in the arse. Whereas Trent has quality, but defensively, Trent is found wanting a lot of times against a very good winger. But they're not really around, so he's doing well. But if I had to pick one at the minute, I'd probably say it's hard to call, but I'd go with probably Trent because you probably get massive money for him.
Yeah, can't imagine what kind of fee you could put in him, but Trent.
Massive money for him,
yeah. Last question, so for you, Paul, any lockdown binging recommendations? Any TV shows or movies or anything you've been watching recently during lockdown?
I've watched Ozark, which a lot of people have watched.
Ozark, I haven't seen it on myself.
It's good, yeah. But there's a show on, I don't think it's on Netflix yet. It's a spin-off of Sons of Anarchy, and it's called Mayans MC. It's Mayans, Mayans, right? Mexican biker gang. And I watched, there was 2 series. There's another one coming now, say this year at some stage. It's done like FX in America. There's no more money spared making it. Like it's a brilliant show. Really brilliant show. I've watched the 20 episodes now, and it's one of the best shows I've seen.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, Paul, thanks very much for coming on. Really enjoyed it now. Very, very interesting to hear a lot of your thoughts and all these things. So thanks a million for coming on and speaking with us.
Great, Jamie. It was great. Great to talk. Great to have a chat. So, and best of luck with your venture. It's great.
Yeah, thanks very much. So if you've stuck with us this long, guys, thanks very much. Don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll be back very soon with you. Thanks a million.